Talkin Yak live.
Hey everyone, I'm Jim Yakubowski. I write an article for Live Sound International called Talkin Yak, and today I'd like to show you a cool routing technique I like to use when I have more than one guitar player in a band. This live demo I'm going to show you comes from my very first article entitled Dueling Guitars. And it's a routing setup using multiple DCAs that allow me the option to place the guitar player's rig either in a wide stereo image in the PA or just to that respective player's side of the stage. All right, here we go. So what we got going today is a little routing technique that we're going to use to get some quick access via some DCAs to positioning our guitars in the stereo field. Sometimes when you have a band with two guitarists in it, you want to have those guys kind of sitting at 10 and 2 o'clock in the mix, especially if they're playing sort of alternating, moving guitar parts. It's nice to have them sort of bouncing, moving like this. And then when, let's say, someone starts a song with a big guitar intro, you're going to want that one player's sound to be big wide stereo, and also for guitar solo. So the way we like to do this, the way I like to do it anyway, this is one technique I came up with on the Matchbox 20 tour. And you're going to hear some of their awesome music and see their names on the screen here as we work with their guitars. So this all starts off in the input side of things. And the way these guys had their guitar rigs set up was different for Kyle on house left and Paul on house right. So Kyle had 4 mono channels that he used to get his sounds. They were all done with Palmer speaker simulators. So 4 different amplifiers into Palmer speaker simulators, 4 mono sources. Paul, on the other hand, had a one stereo fractal unit that did everything: acoustics, electrics, clean, dirty, distortion. It was all done coming out of a stereo fractal. So what we're going to do here today to get that all routing the way we want to get quick access to having a choice of whether we're going to put this up at a 10 and 2 o'clock position or a big wide stereo. We're going to do it through some stereo auxes. So the way we do this is, let's start with Kyle. You can see on the screen right now that his guitars, his individual mono guitars, are going to stereo aux 1. And Paul over here, his stereo fractal is being assigned to stereo aux 2. So this kind of works the same for mono or stereo guitar setups. The main thing is to start off with a stereo aux. And another note here as we go along, you're going to want to take these initial input channels out of the stereo mix. You'll see later on where we get that back into the main PA mix. But for now, all input channels are going to be out of the main left-right. Okay, so we've assigned our inputs to stereo auxes. And now what we're going to do is go have a quick look at those stereo auxes. And they're down here on just one of the layers of my awesome Allen & Heath C1500 D-Live. And those 2 channels, stereo channels, are then going to get routed into another set of stereo inputs. And so let's have a look at that. Back up here, if we go to this one that we've got labeled Kyle Pan, and we have a quick look at where that's coming in, you can see on the screen that's being routed into stereo aux 1. Kyle's stereo channel is also getting the input from stereo aux 1. Paul Pan is stereo aux 2, and his stereo channel is stereo aux 2 as well. So you may ask at this point, why 4 stereo channels for these guys' rigs? Well, it really all comes down to panning. You just want to be able to pan these 2 stereo return channels in a different way. So if we click on our pan button here, you can see that the stereo channels, Kyle's and Paul, are both balanced in the center. So this is a true stereo setup, stereo augs into a stereo input channel, and panned in the center, big left and right setup. With the panned stereo channels, they are panned off in a 10 and 2 o'clock situation. So this gives us our setup to then assign those to some place where we can get to them quickly, which is the DCA level. And if we look down at the DCA level, we can see that we have these 4 channels. We have Kyle pan, Kyle stereo, Paul pan, Paul stereo, and then this secret little fader here I'll get to, which is called guitar effects. So that way you have the choice. If the guys are playing a rhythm part and it's kind of bouncing back and forth, I can just use the pan DCAs, and that'll give us our imaging this way. And if it's a big intro to the song, we're going to use Kyle stereo and Paul stereo at the same time to give us our imaging there. So we're going to start this song off now. We'll play the intro to this song, and then we're going to bounce into the verse. I'll play a little bit of that, and then we'll take it out, and I'll show you one more thing at the end. But this is really just going to be demoing in the intro. We're going to hear the 2 stereo rigs. As soon as we come into the verse, you'll hear them go to the panned imaging. All right, let's do it. Okay, here comes the transition. And you can hear the panned imaging. All right, cool. So you hear that movement in the guitars there. All right, so we'll hold it there for just a second, and I'll set us up here next for the lead into the guitar solo, because this is where I want to introduce to you this secret fader, which is called Guitar Effects. So this is basically getting, it sends from Kyle's stereo channel, and this is going to stereo effects, and I threw a chorusing device on there and then a bounce delay as well. So I like to put this on its own DCA and use it in conjunction with the stereo DCA. So if we take our panned ones out and we just have stereo and then the guitar effects, I'll show you how this works. Actually, we'll go back to the start, and I'll show you this in the intro. We'll play the intro again with the cool effects on it, and then go back into the mono bit again. Okay, so here we go with that. Okay, cool. So that's showing how you can use your stereo guitar channel to add effects. And then in the verses, if you want it to be a bit more dry, you can have that sort of separation and the space in the middle for your snare drum, for your singer, for your bass guitar, all that good stuff in the center. But when you have a big intro like this song Bent has, you can use the stereo DCA along with some effects. Okay, so I'd like to jump ahead now to this lead into the solo, and we're going to come out of having the pan guitars and then go into the stereo with the effects again. Take the effects away for a sec so you can hear all that. And back in. All right, cool. So there it is. This is a really effective way to be able to quickly re-image your guitar players' entire rigs in the PA. A nice pan separated left and right, panned sort of a little mono, or a big intro to a song, and put that all the way left and right for a huge sound in the beginning. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope that made sense. I'll supply some information where you can email me with questions. But for now, that's it. Talkin Yak Live, dueling guitars.
Talkin Yak Live.